I saw that. Okay, we're now
And
live.
okay, all right.
All right. Hey, welcome. If you got some questions, put them in. We want to hear what we can help you with. Mark and I and Ed have been doing this for a long time, and we really stepped it up recently. We've got these virtual events that are selling out. We just sold out again last night. That's
Woohoo!
crazy.
We'll
So
take it.
we're and Mark, I think it's part of what we heard from Mark Sanborn, where he said you need to respond to the newfound pain.
You found pain. That's it.
Yeah, we totally took a direction change. We never taught this as a 2-day event before. I said, "Hey guys," I felt like Mickey Rooney. "Hey guys, let's make a show."
So for the young people,
Yeah, under
Wikipedia, just Wikipedia, Mickey Rooney.
Yes.
We don't have time to explain.
Yeah.
So if you got questions, please type them in. We're keeping an eye on Facebook. But guys, let's prime the pump here. What questions are you guys hearing, or what struggles are you guys hearing that people have?
Well, one of the things I'm hearing is I just did a virtual keynote for Central Europe, and one of the questions that came up was, how is virtual presentations different from live, and how is it impacting the connection between you and the audience? And I came up with this on the fly metaphor. Do you remember seeing on either television or a movie where the attorney visits an inmate in prison, and the inmate is behind glass? Well, I'm going to call this presentation prison. Virtual puts people in presentation prison because you're behind two panes of glass. Number one, your screen. If you're the presenter, that's the first screen. And then it's the audience's screen. So they're behind two panes of glass. And every pane of glass, guess what? It lessens and it dampens the connection between you and the audience.
Different levels.
Which is one of the reasons why you need to be part of our virtual presentations program. Because one of the things that, and this is Darren's genius. By the way, I rarely ever say that phrase, Darren's genius. It does occur to me, I think this is the first time. This is a world premiere.
You know, right?
Everyone, you are a witness, but part of Darren's genius is something called pace elements. Now we're gonna tease you. We're not gonna tell you exactly what they are, but they are there are different ways that you can connect with the audience. Patricia Fripp talks about sameness. Sameness is the enemy of a presenter. That is, if you're just a talking head live, it's 10 times worse virtually, because think of this lens as a magnifying lens. Everything that you do wrong and everything you do poorly, it is magnified multiple times over. Mark?
Well, the thing is, what I'm hearing is, how do I establish this relationship with an audience of 300 when all I can see is a screen? Some screens are black, they've got muted, and some people don't realize they've got the dog in the background, and I got to focus on this camera.
What about the people walking in the back of people?
I'm on an iPad today, and the camera's not there. The camera's over here, or the camera's down here, and people getting flustered because they want to have a good impression. And as you say, everything we do is magnified when we are doing it virtually. And that's really a concern I've been getting quite a bit from people, how to maneuver and how to manage that well, so they can feel they get a real connection to the audience while they present virtually.
Yeah, I think, and I want to give credit to Dave McElhaney, who was my coach, who originally taught pace elements to me. But just to give you the concept, if you think about it, when you ask a question, that's a pace element. When you tell a story, that's another pace element. When you pull an Ed Tate exercise, or as we call them, Edersizes.
Yeah, energizers.
There you go.
That's a pace element. So when you're in virtual, to keep them engaged, it's almost like you've got to keep it moving. So right now we're in gallery mode, so you see all of us at once, as far as when we're streaming to Facebook. But if we're just doing our workshop, we actually go speaker view. So it goes from Mark to Ed to me to Mark to Ed. So each time we switch from one to the other, it's like interesting, Interesting. So we've got to keep that consistent pace going and change the pace element. And it's also we ended up coming up with 20 of them, which every time we do a workshop, we learn more and teach more. But it's not about doing all of them. It's doing the right ones for your style, for your content, for your audience.
And that's a common mistake also. Go ahead, Ed.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, real quick, that ties into regular presentations. We teach all these wonderful techniques, and there are individuals who are trying to use all the techniques in one presentation. And you don't have to do that. You simply have to apply the best techniques that help you to achieve your goal in the moment for that particular presentation and that particular circumstance. Ed.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind is that how virtual presentations are different. You have to fight for the audience's focus. You got to fight for focus. And what do we mean by that? Again, we just alluded to it, all the different types of distractions. All right, Mark?
No, I said fight right now. Fight for focus. Right.
Okay. It's like, what happened? Where'd he go?
I'm writing down.
I got to fight for focus with my co-host, you know? So if I got to fight for focus with my co-host, how hard is this? This
That's
problem.
Real world right there.
That's real world. Okay. What do I mean by that? Okay. So you've got your devices. Okay. You've got family. You've got pets. You know, you got all types of things which are going on. Like, you know, my wife, bless her soul, if I'm working through the dinner hour, guess what? She will bring the dinner here. And all of a sudden, I've got food. Do I speak? Do I eat? Do I speak? Do I eat?
Yeah. Depends. It depends how good the presenter is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, all of a sudden, I think I'm gonna eat. And I turn my screen off, if you will. But you gotta fight for focus. Mark?
Well, that's so true. And Darren knows how good my wife can cook. So she'll bring me like fruit just to whet my appetite. But the idea of having to fight for focus is a real thing. And there are myriad distractions we can face every single day when we have to present live. I mean, right now, you can't see my wife. She's going, bye, I'm leaving now. I love you. See you later, okay?
We love you too.
We love you too.
She's wondering. She's like, oh my goodness. But this is real, okay? She has to leave the house, and here she is.
Hello.
Hey. Okay. I mean, our ratings just went up dramatically.
Your hair looks amazing.
Thank you.
Did it herself, by the way. Her hair.
Okay.
That's a COVID haircut right there.
There you go. There you go.
Great to see you, Andrea.
Bye, guys.
That's
And good to see my one of my Indian sons, Selva, is watching as well. I don't know if Hema's with him or my Indian daughter is there, but good to see you all watching today from India, Chennai.
Wow.
Welcome. All right, please, Selva, and if Hema's there, pop a question about doing virtual presentations. I know you're back at work in the office now, but if you have to do virtual talks or anything like that, whatever questions, whatever challenges you may have faced, please, everyone who's there, share them with us. We want to know what those are. We want to answer your questions about delivering virtual presentations. Thanks.
I've got a rant. So
Go ahead.
Is it okay?
All right.
Yeah, go for it, man.
I can mute you if I have to.
Oh, man.
Go for it.
Right now, I mean, the world has everyone. Have you ever noticed that everyone is a virtual presentation expert? Like if you go on LinkedIn right now,
Yeah.
Everyone's a virtual keynoter, virtual presentation expert. Now, a month ago, they were a real estate agent. And before that, they were a speaker. And before that, they were a personal trainer. And okay, I'm sorry, that's a rant. All right.
Before that, they're a life coach.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Or commas, if you will. Okay. But the one thing that really frustrates me is that there's an emphasis on the platform rather than the person or the presenter. Everyone is emphasizing the different platforms. Like, we're on Zoom right now, but there's Google Hangouts, there is GoToMeeting. Pick your platform, if you will. It really doesn't matter. And they're putting the platform on the pedestal rather than the person. And presentations, it's about the person. It's about the presenter. It's about the audience. It's not about the platform. If we were in a band, the platform should be the background singers. It shouldn't be the lead singer, if you will. So one thing that makes our virtual presentations workshop completely different is the focus on the person, the presenter, and your audience rather than the platform. Darren?
Yeah, I think, now I got to be honest here. I got to be transparent that when we started first putting this together, I started getting our friend Cynthia Lay started sending me, hey, this person's doing a webinar, or this person's doing a webinar. And I honestly, I kind of like, whatever. And then I said, you know what? How stupid am I? I should be seeing what other people are doing, because you can learn from good and bad. So forget what it is. And there was one gentleman, I'm not going to use his name, and he said that he actually went to a 3-day workshop, and now he was going to teach what he just learned at this 2-day workshop. So now he's regurgitating what he learned 2 days ago. So I prepared to be underwhelmed, but I'm like, okay, I got to do what's best for our audience for our 2-day event. And I got up at 6 a.m., not my best time, but I got up at 6 a.m., got my coffee, and just sat there with my coffee like an angry pirate, prepared to be underwhelmed. This gentleman was awesome. He was really good, but here was the key. He got some new techniques, but he was already a world-class trainer. So that there's difference in that. And that was an aha. And guys, you know, when we open our workshop now, the little exercise that we do at the beginning, asking people about what connects them at live and how we do that. Well, that idea came from modeling what I learned from this guy. So shame on me, Darren, for having that ego and thinking just because I had more experience meant I knew it all. So I think that's part of the thing, Ed and Mark, too. It's like there's speakers out there who think they can turn on the Zoom lens, have a decent light, and they know their content. But it's different. There are changes in virtual change the rules.
Man. Well, and here's another way it changed the rules. So one of the things that I demand when I do a virtual keynote is that we have a walkthrough, as you would normally as a professional speaker. There's always like some type of AV check. Well, it is vital. It is critical that you have this AV check. Now, what I should qualify is I did an AV check with one organization. However, in the meantime, between the AV check, I got some new equipment in. So I should have had a AV check with the new equipment.
You think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it happens.
I got this new microphone. I got a wireless microphone. I have a monitor. I'm thinking like, yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
It happens.
Everything.
Before I comment, I want to acknowledge a couple of people. Noreen has a couple of comments she wants to share. And
Sure.
Bonsoir, Anne, ça va? Très bien, j'espère. My friend Anne Topino, who was my host when Andrew and I were in France 2 years ago. Good to see you, Anne. But Noreen was...
I had to turn on Google, interpretation, for a moment
Real
there.
quick,
Yeah.
just let me wrap up that quick thought. So here's the thought that if you are going to do this, you not only have to have the tools, but you have to know how to use them. One of the things we say in our workshop is you got to press every button. I just relearned this myself this week. Mark, you remember our music wasn't playing right and it was being muddled and we didn't know why. But it's like, if you're trying to do this, it's kind of like going to IKEA, buying the furniture and not actually reading the instructions. You got to press every button. And like Ed said, you got to test it too. You got to test it with the new people. You got to test it the new way. It sounds like it could be a waste of time. It's the most important time you can invest. Mark?
I'm guessing that blue is your favorite color. I won't say why. But, to reinforce that point, Ed, you talked about that experience. Darren and I lived that this week. We had a webinar earlier this week, and Darren got a new camera. And this is actually on video now.
Are you noticing there's a theme here? There's a theme here.
No, this is true. Darren got a new camera, and he had it white balanced, or so he thought, and he looked jaundiced for 90 minutes. He looked yellow.
Oh my.
And we just had to go with it. It was a live event. We couldn't postpone it, but we pushed every button. And I think he's looking better now. He looked a little less pallid, Darren.
I went back to the old camera until I can have Dawson come in and help me.
I can see people like, does he have COVID?
You know what? It's funny you say that, but people
He's got corona.
Because the image you present virtually is important. And that is also linked to the feelings, which brings me to the question that Noreen had on Facebook about missing the feelings of being live with individuals. In our workshop, we talk about what people miss from having a live event. We discussed that. And one is the emotional connection. She says, when you're sitting eye to eye without giving a hug, you miss those feelings. And I want a speaker to take me to those feelings.
Nice.
So right away, we have somebody who's a participant who's telling you that when you're presenting virtually, I need to have that emotional connection. And we all know, Darren and Ed and I, we have learned that the emotional connection is critical, and it dulls, Darren says, virtual dulls that connections. We have a task to reestablish that in a virtual atmosphere. Ed, any comment on that?
Well, one of the things I try to do, you guys know me for my interactivity in presentations. And the feedback I got yesterday for my keynote is, wow, that was fun. And you got me moving. And one of the keys here is I get people up and moving. So for example, like if I were doing a regular keynote, I have audience members stand up, talk to your neighbor, etc. Well, guess what? There are certain things that you can still do to make that emotional connection. The number one emotional connector is a well-told story. Wouldn't you agree, Darren?
If it's well told. We got to clarify.
He said well told. He said well told.
No, he did, but I'm just emphasizing what he said. Yeah. And it's using, now we've got this other medium, this visual medium. So it's using the medium, using your voice, and making sure you've got all the rest that aren't distractions. I don't know if we should talk about background distractions as well, because if that question doesn't come up, we should bring it up.
We will. But I agree with you, a well-told story. And because the audience wants to experience, I tell people, don't give a speech, give an experience. And stories well told really connect with the audience. They have that emotional link to us. And if they can see us, if they can see themselves in the story, in a character, or in a circumstance from your story, if they can connect emotionally, that's a really big draw. But that's really very important. And I think you're right, Ed. A story well told is a great connector. And I want to say a quick hi to my webmaster, Cynthia Lay, who's here. Good to see you,
Hey,
Cynthia.
Hey, Cynthia. How's it going? Good.
We
Good.
mentioned you
People,
earlier.
people like my virtual Cynthia. That was all you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the other thing is, you talked about giving them an experience. I want it to be a little bit more conversational. For example, I was coaching a young man yesterday, and he was focused on giving a speech. He was focused on getting to the next line. And there's a part of it where he actually mentions COVID, and he just mentions it COVID like I would talk about like my water bottle. There was like no emotion. I says, wait a minute, time out, slow down. And I said, you can't rush through that. You know, COVID is a loaded word. Coronavirus is a loaded word. Quarantine, these are loaded expressions. You know, they have impact. They mean different things to different people. And this is a unique experience. The entire world's been locked down. However, COVID means different things to different people. Some people have actually been impacted. They've lost loved ones, or they've been hospitalized, etc. You can't treat that like a water bottle. You know, you have to treat that with some emotion and some care and some concern. And we literally spent 30 minutes. 30 minutes. It's like, no, do it again. Do it again. Do it again. I don't want you to come across as tone deaf. So we're talking about emotion, and it is so easy to be seen as tone deaf or emotionless on this platform. Guys?
I have to agree. That's why we say connection is going to be important. Speaking of connection, Esther, good to see you. Terima kasih. Glad to see you here from Malaysia. Having that connection is what makes people feel that we are talking with them. And just one technical point I think is going to come up anyway. It's how we connect through that lens. It's really, really important to understand that with a large live audience, we've got all these people here. That's one thing. When you have an audience of one, of many individuals, you've got to connect through that lens. And Darren, distractions. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Ed.
there's distractions. Sorry.
That L'Oreal?
yes. But
That's wonderful.
You know, mom. Well, never mind. I wouldn't even mention that. So.
Well, Mom did hop on the call though. She's watching you live. I want you to know that. So.
Okay. So what Mom needs to actually, you know, Dress
Yeah.
appropriately to be
And
seen.
so is my dear friend from China and Colorado, Kelly. Kelly, promise me you won't go away today. It's always good to see you.
Good.
But remember, I always say this: focus on your friends behind the lens. So many of us, we tend to, as Ed says, we want to get through our material. We want to get through the speech. We want to make sure we get our words out. But the purpose is to really establish that connection, begin the relationship, and connect with a message that's important to us. Darren?
Hey, shout out to Lisa joining us from Vegas. Thanks for joining us. I just think there's so much. Yeah, you guys covered it. Let's answer some more questions.
Okay, cool. Let's go from there. So questions. What do we got?
Balsbury's got one. He says, any tips on being more expressive and emotive, having no one to look at? Excuse me, having no one to look at, be more expressive and more emotive. I'll give you my high-level answer, always been this: focus on your friends behind the lens. Know where the camera is and put your family, your friends, your loved ones there and talk to them. That's my high-level answer. Any more detail you guys want to share? I say go for it. H2O.
Darren, I don't know if you're in a position to actually show that visual.
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
He's on the ball. Yes, we didn't meet in the Philippines. As well. So thank you for mentioning that truth. Yeah. Excuse me. Yes, Darren has a wonderful visual he's going to share about what you can do to help you to focus on your friends behind the lens. Some of us,
you talking about this one, Mark?
Note to ourselves. We put it by the camera. It says, "Look here." Okay. Oh, there you go.
Yes, very high tech. So look, if you can't afford to be in this business, if you can't afford to post it, pick another business. This is actually the one we're talking about. This actually came in from one of our students, Mary Lou. So I want to give her credit, but she came up with this. This is genius. Mary Lou rocks. And she put a photo up of someone right there as that reminder to look the other person in the eyes. I just think that's brilliant. Thank you, Mary Lou. One of our
we didn't see the picture, Darren.
We didn't see the picture.
We didn't see the photograph. We saw mine. We saw this.
You see it now?
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. Okay. And that lens is right on the nose. That's perfect. It keeps your eyes right
genius. There. It's just, it's that constant reminder to, there they are right there. They're not down here. They're not over here. They're not down here. Mark, I don't know if you want to share the story from your client. I can show, I can show the visual if you want. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And Balsbury, we hope this is helpful to you, okay? True story. I have a buddy who was doing a live like this in a Q&A format with a host asking him questions. And I tuned in and I noticed he was not looking at the lens. So in the middle of this, I sent him a text message saying, please look at the lens. You're not looking at us. Because when you don't look at the lens, the audience feels disconnected. They think you're not paying any real attention to them. You're doing something else. Maybe you're checking your email. It doesn't feel very good. So I said, please focus. And his answer, I was looking directly at my iPad. I know you can read this, friends, but I'm going to say it anyway. He says, I don't know what else I could have done. I was looking directly at my partner. I can't see the second slide, Darren. For some reason, I don't see it yet. The second.
I don't know. Yeah, hold it.
Okay. No worries. But I pointed out to him, the problem is using an iPad, the camera, any device, the camera isn't on the screen. We are tempted to look at the screen because I can see Ed there, I can see Darren there, I can see myself over here, but at no point was any of them look like a screen. So I told him, you've got to know where the camera on the iPad is, that little dot, right, where the camera lives. It's really weird having to focus on someplace different. So I sent him 2 screenshots of 2 different kinds of iPads. One shows the camera top right-hand corner of the iPad, and the other screenshot showed the camera to the left in the middle on the end of the iPad. And if you use an iPad or even a mobile device, you've got to know where that camera is. And see in the photograph, you'll see top picture. It's not the lovely lady in the Afghan on the mountaintop. It's in the top right-hand corner. Your eyes have got to go there. In the lower picture, it isn't the landscape, the sun, or the tall buildings. It's on the left-hand side in the middle. You got to focus your eyes there. And it takes practice. Trust me, it takes practice. I have to focus on my friends behind the lens. On my mobile device, it's in a corner. I record video every week on my mobile, but I've trained myself and forced myself to look at that dot as if that's where everybody lives for my audience. It'll take some time, Balsary and friends, but the key is focus on your friends behind the lens. Over to you, Darren.
All right. I'm learning that when you do a Facebook Live, that changes the rules. That you can't actually advance. I can share a slide, but it's not letting me advance, or I don't know how to do that in Facebook Live. It works. It works in all the other ones. We learn as we grow. We're just the guys who messed up more than everybody else.
I just got a question from Australia.
Yeah.
And this is by a Sherry Wallace. And it says, I would like to know how shy introverts can put more into their speeches without feeling like complete frauds.
How can shy introverts put more into their speeches without feeling like complete frauds?
Yes.
You don't ever want to betray your personality. Not every speaker is as animated and as vibrant as Darren LaCroix. I know I certainly am not. We all know Darren is known for that. You know, Ed's got this dignified teacher thing going on, very active thing. I'm just weird Jamaican. You know, that's just who I am.
Yeah, man.
You bring yourself, your personality, and your particular style to every presentation. If you try and change that because you're virtual or because someone says you should be more animated, don't betray who you are. Your passion for your topic, your desire to share what you have from your heart, your true concern for your audience to get the message can drive that forward. And Darren is dying to speak after Ed. So Ed, you go first. See what I did there?
Well, well, she also added a little extra context here. It says, for example, even when I feel like I've gone over the top in my delivery, the evaluator's feedback is generally that I could have used bigger, better body movements and used my voice. So this person, they think they're going over the top. They're an introvert, but the feedback they're getting is they're not. So again, let's repeat the question. I would like to know how shy introverts can put more into their speeches without feeling like complete fraud. So apparently this feedback that Sherry's feeling is that it's making her not seem that as to who she are. And I think you're right. You're dead on, Mark, with regard to that.
But two quick things. One, I want to caution: be careful who you listen to, because that feedback may have come from someone who they think you just need to be more expressive. No. So we got to be careful. So we've got to filter that. So be careful. But going back to the essence of the challenge, Mark, piggyback on this. I'm sure I'm setting you up for something. Going back to when Mark started working with me. Go back to why, or Ed, your whys. Go back to why you're doing this, why are you presenting. So even though if you met me as an introvert out in the real world and I'm not on stage teaching what I know, I'm the quiet guy, I'm the observer. But when Mark said, look, you've got the privilege of 2,000 lives for 7 minutes, what are you gonna do with that? As an introvert, we've got to get clear on what we're trying to say and why we're trying to say it. So Mark asked me when I was starting to work on my speech. So whether it's speech, webinar, virtual presentation, those are interrelated. He said, choose a child in your life. And he said, if you're going to die tomorrow, what one lesson you learned from your life would you want to pass on to Michael? And so Michael is my eldest nephew. I don't have any children. So when I wrote the speech and I thought of what was the message, the one message I would pass on to him. And then Mark said, whenever you practice, even if you're alone, put Michael in the 4th row and deliver it to him like it's your last time. And introverts, when you find out where's that, as Jennifer Leone says, that fire in your belly, like you'll become naturally more expressive. Naturally a stronger intention to help your audience. So I think if you tie into that, it's going to solve a lot of problems organically. Mark or Ed?
When I coach someone, as a matter of fact, this is the first conversation I always have with a coaching client. Number one, and actually, I got this from Darren. I'm inspired by Darren. God, this is twice in a row.
Yes. Wow.
Write
that date down, Ed. Write that date down.
No, I think Darren should write this date down. That should be posted in the background there. But anyway, Darren says that you, that is the coachee, are the president of your speech.
CEO, yeah.
I like this better. You're the president of your presentation. The fact that I won the world championship of public speaking, honestly, means nothing, because you're the person who has to present it, not me. And my job is to provide you with, tools, tips, ideas, strategies, techniques, suggestions. But I'm coming from, we talked about the metaphor of a lens. I'm coming from Ed's lens. I'm coming from Ed's glasses, if you will. I'm coming from how I would deliver it, which may not be the way that you deliver it. Mm-hmm. So I take you back to Darren's point. God, a third time. I'm referencing Darren. Yeah. It is, it's you. It's your perspective. You're the one who has to deliver this. It's your presentation. It's your style. So your job, my job is to provide you with tools, techniques, strategies, a lot of ideas, if you will. Your job is to determine which one of those fit you, which ones are part of your personality, which will fit into your story and to your structure.
And another great example too is if you think of Brian Tracy near like 20 years ago, he was not animated at all. He's become more animated and more expressive. But back in the day when I started watching him, he stood there. But his brilliance and his wisdom made you think. We're trying to make the audience think. So you don't need animation, but you do need to make the audience think. Mark?
Yeah, the key is you don't want to ever divorce yourself from who you really are. Don't try to become somebody else because somebody says, be more animated. If your animation is natural, simple movements, don't overdo it just to impress someone. Because if you ever come across as inauthentic, you will lose credibility immediately. Be yourself. Ed.
I want to talk about that point, but I also want to mention another resource for people out there. Great book is called Quiet, the Power of Introverts and the World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. It is a brilliant, brilliant book. So you should download the Audible version. Right now, you've got time on your hands, so you've got time to read this. But anyway, Quiet, the Power of Introverts.
And if you can, Ed, when you're done talking, just put it in the chat so people can see it.
Okay, perfect. I will do that.
On your page, I guess. So it's good.
But like right now, we live in this day and age of authenticity. I mean, people are posting on videos all the time that it's gone. That day is gone when you're a professional speaker and it comes across a certain way and you talk a certain way and you have certain gestures. That day, that's dead. That's done. People want to see your personality. They want to see your character. They want to see, who are you really? Yeah. And if you do anything and people are really good, I'm going to say lie detectors or inauthentic detectors. They can say that felt like a performance. That didn't feel real. I don't know there's something there, but I don't know what it is, but it's not real.
You see something.
Exactly.
Don't know what it is.
Exactly. But it's just like, I'm not going to believe this. So we have to be very, very cautious of that, guys.
Appreciate it.
And a quick shout out to Gulia, who is here. Mark, if you remember when I showed that image of the plaque behind me.
Yes, that was her.
She was the event planner in Italy who called me out on that and said, what's that? And that's what got me. That was the inciting incident that got me to switch. Mark, what else we got for questions?
Awesome. A question was a comment from Palm Hub, the man in the hat, regarding technology. He said, test, test, test. I had to move a microphone and the new USB connection code was poor quality and failed during the event. Oops. Deal with it and give my best. And they loved his response. And I want to piggyback that to a question from Kelly Guo, who was a Toastmaster from China, who was a district officer when I went in 2015. She has come to the USA and she actually works with Toastmasters in Colorado. She says, question, we can't avoid technology hiccups no matter how prepared we are. Just ask us, how do you handle the difficulties while you are speaking? And I think I'm going to use one word answer and let Darren and Ed double down. My one word answer is honestly. Okay, so if first of all you have an issue, be honest about it. Don't try and fake your way through it. And I'll let Darren and Ed expound. Go ahead, gentlemen.
I learned from. Sorry, go ahead, Ed.
No, you go ahead.
Chippendale here. No, you go.
Chippendales.
Jim, who was Jim was not that Chippendale. Fat Chippendale.
Our Facebook just changed.
Oh boy. Anyway, we lost control here. Usually it's other people who cause us to lose control.
All right, here's the deal, folks.
It's us.
We're going to have fun regardless.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome to join us. Okay.
Jim Stovall, who's a mentor of mine from Oklahoma, he said it brilliantly. He said, handle what you can, acknowledge what you cannot. Handle what you can control. So fix it if you can, but acknowledge what you can't control. Just like the yellow in the camera that I had, I could have switched over, but instead I just acknowledge, hey, I'm trying out a new camera. Should have tested it beforehand. It all worked in rehearsal, but somehow now when I'm live, it's different. My bad. And I think people appreciate when you own up to them. And I think it also creates a connection when you're transparent, because now you're proving you're not the be all end all. And by the way, just for the record, Ed, I'm just keeping score. You said 3 so.
Okay. I had a very fresh example yesterday. Again, I got new equipment. I got new mics. I got new gear. By the way, here's something else. Just a little tip. Your laptop or whatever device you're broadcasting from, make sure that it's actually plugged in. Ask me how I know. Okay? Because all of a sudden, like in the middle of my keynote, this is like, you have 5 minutes worth of power remaining. So anyway, just an aside. So, but anyway, yesterday, literally minutes before I'm going on, all the equipment tested. It worked out great. I'm listening to my introduction. I'm about to go on, and then I go on, and nothing. You're pressing your buttons. Absolutely nothing is going on. And I love the expression you just had, Darren, is handle what you can, acknowledge what you can. So I just said,
I'm
hey,
taking it.
And I just told the audience, I says, this is one of the challenges of virtual presentations. You think you've got everything ready, but something might go wrong. And I says, honestly, as a person, an executive in the computer industry, I should know better. Because in technology, whenever we would do demonstrations and we would actually add new equipment to the network, invariably, it wasn't if, it was when something would go wrong. And you had to be able to test, but also move forward. So for example, you should be able to do your presentation unplugged. It shouldn't be dependent upon, in my case, I had a deck of slides, but you know what? Honestly, I knew the presentation so well, I just kept moving. I kept moving and talking, and eventually we got the equipment to work. But I kept it moving forward because you know what? If I were just doing this live, unplugged, no equipment, how would I handle this? So you always have to have what I call the unplugged plan. All your technology fails. Be so good that you can do this thing unplugged. You're not dependent upon the equipment.
That's a great Edism.
Yeah.
The unplugged plan. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. I'm
gonna start keeping score. Okay?
I'm gonna take one off here. But two things real quick. Like whether you're a believer or not, I think God's hearing a lot more prayers these days just before people go technology live. Oh God. And
we're getting more believers. Just minutes before a virtual presentation.
So if you're not a believer, do a shout out anyway.
Just consider
there's another way. And I really want to back up one of the comments came in from Anne. Anne said, don't over apologize. Don't apologize profusely, which I think is really important. Say, acknowledge it, but don't keep apologizing. Now you're the distraction. Like you mentioned it, if 100 people join after you mention it, okay, just mention it again because there's new people on. But other than that, shut up and move forward. Now we don't care that you're nice. Now you're being annoying.
I actually turned into humor, and I said, so in this day, I think it's like 200 people watching. It's just like, aren't you glad this isn't happening to you? I said, and I did a pivot. I says, oh yeah, by the way, in last month's issue of Toastmasters magazine, I wrote an article on forgetting your line or being under pressure. Just check it out. Just read among yourselves. So I used humor in that particular instance, and I got comments later on. They just liked how I handled the circumstances.
Awesome. Now, Darren, has a question for us. What are some ways we can use to increase engagement online? How can we have better engagement in an online or virtual environment? Any takers for that one?
Well, I'll take that one on. There's a guy by the name of Bob Pike who is in the Speaking Hall of Fame. He's also in the Training Hall of Fame as well. And he made a comment that I've never forgot. The audience always wants to be a part of the show. The audience always wants to be a part of the show. So when you have a virtual presentation, this is a rhetorical question. I teach a program called Making Managers into Leaders, and we say, ask an effective question. An effective question is a question that you ask yourself that you keep processing on and you keep getting answers. So ask yourself an effective question. How can I make my audience a part of the show? Now, you're not minutes before in your prayer, just before you're about to go live. That's not the time to ask that question. It is the days, the weeks prior to that in terms of preparation. What are some different ways I can do this? So for example, when Darren taught me PACE elements, I literally took out my presentation, I laid it out, and I said, okay, what's the content? What's a PACE element that I can add to that? What's the content? What's a PACE element? And in those PACE elements, I said, oh, here, I can actually do some interactivity here. I can do an exercise here. I can do a poll here. I can do a breakout room here, etc. So I've got my content, and I'm putting on a different filter. I'm putting on a different layer. I'm virtualizing my presentations. By the way, in my PowerPoint, I just noticed something. I've got my regular live deck. Now I have what I call virtual decks. So it could be the same presentation, but I have to virtualize that deck. I'm giving a presentation tomorrow. I've given that presentation hundreds of times, but you know what? I've never given it virtually. So guess what Ed's doing on Saturday? I'm virtualizing that presentation. I'm asking myself that effective question. How can I make people part of the show? How can I build in interactivity into this presentation that I've never given virtually before? So ask yourself the question, how can you virtualize your presentation and make people part of the show? Guys?
And the cool thing with that is what you're doing is you're focusing on how best to serve the audience. Not about me looking good. It's about how can I make it better for the purpose of truly serving the audience. And that's really going to be key. So thank you for sharing that. Now, for those who may have just joined us recently, our numbers keep going and coming. But Ed, you mentioned PACE elements. And very quickly, could you just define what that means for those who may have just jumped in and I'm not familiar with the term PACE elements?
Well, I'm turning it over to Darren because that's Darren's creation. So, Darren?
Well, there's different elements that we use, and I don't actually have a great definition. Mark, you're the guy who we have to carry a dictionary to listen to from his high school yearbook. Can I share that, Mark?
Yes, you may. What you're saying is about me being the wordsmith. Well, basically, a PACE element is whatever we change a modality, a way of connecting with the audience that keeps them engaged. For example, one PACE element is called a talking head. Right now, we have 3 talking heads. But we're going to change that PACE element and include a PowerPoint slide. A PowerPoint slide is a change to what the audience experiences. That's a different PACE element. And Darren, of course, loves to make fun of me because of my being a word nerd. I'm a self-professed word nerd. And back in the 1970s, my classmate in high school actually put this in the yearbook, always seen in the center of a crowd, relating one of his experience to the listeners, have to make sure that they have their dictionaries with them for frequent consultations, because indeed I am a word nerd. I am a grammarian. I believe each word has power, and our inflection also magnifies the power. So I always try to choose words carefully. That being said, we just used a different PACE element. We switched from talking heads to a visual and then back. And then within the talking heads, we have 3 different people. That's 3 different PACE elements as well. So that's what a PACE element is, something that changes to keep the audience engaged. I trust it answers the question.
And a way that we converted that, so we kind of took the idea and principle from what I learned from Dave McElhaney, where he said, you ask a question, that's a PACE element. You tell a story, that's a PACE element. Online, you give a poll, that's a PACE element. You ask people to type in, that's a PACE element. So all of these are related. When we do this in live, the way that I kind of broke the code in my own belief is when I realized the power of the B button on a slide. When you hit the B button, whether it's PowerPoint or Keynote, the slide goes black or blank. Well, think about the audience's attention. As soon as you hit the B button and it goes black, well, instinctively, their attention goes from the slide to you. So when you're telling a story, when you need them to make eye contact with you, now you want to keep it moving, you tell the story. What do we mean by that? Click, we hit the B button again, the slide, light, shiny stuff. And so the audio turns. But if the audience is looking at the slide and then at you and looking at the slide and then at you, it's a natural engagement. So what we've done is we've 20 times that for virtual because you really need to. And I think the other thing, the other little secret, quote unquote, that we teach is using like 3 to 4 times as many slides as you do live, because you've got to keep it moving. You got to keep it moving. All right,
And just
Okay.
Let me
So
leave
Darren,
it.
we're going to take some of those points off now. Okay?
And just as an FYI, I began using slides in my youth programs years ago because kids want to see pictures. And I don't do a lot of words with kids. I use images, I do photographs, screenshots, and things like that. But I did not use the B button. I literally inserted blank slides in my deck. So I don't have to press a B, advance, B, advance. I push one button. It's advance. So I know, boom, it goes to a blank slide. Kids go back at you. But whatever works best for you, it's a new pace element, and you don't want to leave slides on your screen. And I'm learning this myself. I had to do keynotes virtually, and I share my screen. And I got to remember, stop share. Let them see you, because you'll share a slide for 8 minutes and all they see is a little you in the corner, and they got this one slide. You've been droning on and they're seeing the slide. Hit the stop share and engage your audience again. Any experience with that, guys? With this, with not doing a stop share fast enough or soon enough?
Man, I got to give Darren more points. Man, this is killing me. This is killing me. It really, really is. It's killing me. So Darren told me this. I learned this from Darren. I got to give him 100% credit. Is if you're a keynoter and you're giving it live, again, you've got to stop sharing. You've got to take because the emphasis should be on you, the presenter. It's not your deck. So it's a new habit. So usually when I'm presenting live, I use a clicker. If I do have a presentation, I just hit the B button and it just goes away. But that's not intuitive. That's not natural. So I literally have to take that slide off. Some of the exercises and activities, what I've learned is, you know what? I try to teach the audience and they all have the words on the screen. But for some activities, I'm not going to do that. I want to see the audience. So I know what the exercise is. I've got it memorized. And I could just teach it to them verbally. And I'll turn it to gallery view because I want to see the audience members actually doing this exercise. And for example, I have one activity is, it's my secret recipe in terms of presentation. I mean, in terms of stories. And here's part of it. This is your head and it makes you think. This is your heart and it connects. What is so cool to see 49 people at a time, screen by screen, doing the same exact thing virtually. And I tell people, hey, turn it on to gallery view so you can see yourselves and you can see your friends. They absolutely love it. So this idea of stop sharing, put the spotlight back on yourself so that you can see what's going on, or turn on gallery view. That is a huge one for those of you who give virtual keynotes.
And one little tip on that is think of the stories you tell. When you approach the emotional part of the story or the emotional shift in the story, that's when we need to see you full talking head so we can read your eyes. So for example, when I tell the story about Mark Brown and going to driving 2.5 hours to work with Mark Brown, and if you were standing there in the meeting room, you would have seen me excited to hand Mark the greatest speech in the history of Toastmasters. I swear it was so good you could hear choirs of angels as I handed it to him. La! I handed it to him and Mark took the speech. Oh, Darren, we have some work to do. What? I did everything you told me to do. So if I do that as mini me, it's not as powerful as if I do that full screen me. So that's why we've got to start. And as you start to do it more and more, and you're just aware, you have that awareness, you'll do it more naturally. Think of when you tell the story, when you're telling a moment, don't stop sharing. Stop sharing. That's the time they need to see your eyes. We want to see your eyes, guys. By the way, we got about 5 minutes. I have to teach for another district this morning.
Okay.
So just want to, people listening, you got a quick question, give us a question. We'll answer it. And
I've got one here. I may be mispronouncing their name. Tine Zhang. So I'm either Tine Zhang or Ting Zhang. Forgive my mispronunciation of name. What are some mouth preparation or breathing exercises that you use? And I use this old school one. This is called the Radio's Announcers Test. So you can look this up you can find this on Wikipedia. You can find it any place online. But it's an excellent habit to have just before you speak, be it live or virtually. And it goes like this. And I'm going to mess this one up. Okay, so I know Mark would get this. He would get this right.
I don't know. We'll see.
1 hen, 2 ducks, 3 squawking geese, 4 limerick oysters, 5 corpulent porpoises, 6 pair of Don Alverzo's tweezers, 7,000 Macedonians in full battle array, 8 brass monkeys from an ancient sacred crypts of Egypt, 9 apathetic, sympathetic, diabetic old men on roller skates with a marked propensity towards procrastination and sloth, 10 lyrical, spherical, diabolical denizens of the depth who stall around the corner of the quay, and the quivery all at the same time. Now, I did not get that right. However, thank you.
We're applauding the effort, Ed. We're applauding the effort.
But here, this exercise, it does several things. Number one, it works out. It forces you to articulate every word. Okay. I mean, literally right now, my jaw actually hurts from this. It also uses every word, every consonant, every syllable in the English language. So this is in terms of something that I do to prepare. And I usually go through this about 4 or 5 times before any presentation.
Mark Brown, you got something. You got to have something.
Well, no, I learned this one from Olivia Schofield in her contest speech back in 2011. She called it Pilates for the tongue to work out the exercises. But I know you got to go in 3 minutes, Darren. I want to ask one question that I think people ask about on the outside. And it's this. What if I'm presenting and I don't want to see their faces and I don't want to go in gallery mode and should I still do it to see how they're responding? Should I ask them to blank their screens off, or should I go to presenter view and see myself and get really, really self-conscious? It seems to be a no-win. Any ideas about that?
I want to go with D.
Which would be?
I believe they need to be muted. Otherwise, especially the bigger the conference, they need to. But why would you not want to see their reaction? Why would you not want to see that? It's like reading a room. It's challenging. Now, maybe you're still new at this. Maybe you're self-conscious. I have the answer for you. Stage time, stage time, stage time. Virtual time, virtual time, virtual time. There's no substitute for experience. Experience will teach you everything. So you've got to get comfortable with that. I just can't think of a scenario other than maybe when you're telling a really poignant moment that you're not really fully healed with and you don't want to see their faces. But other than that, I don't know a reason why you would not want to. Now, that's just my perspective. Ed?
I'm going to take it in a completely different angle. We've had some really powerful sound bites. So before we leave here, I just want to repeat some of these powerful sound bites and some of the lessons from today. When you make a mistake, handle what you can, acknowledge what you can't. Speak to your friends, focus on your friends behind the lens, have an unplugged plan, virtualize your presentations. So these are some of the things that we've talked about today, and we hope that you find them of value.
One question, Ed, came up. Will you share the script for that particular exercise? How can we get hold of that particular script?
It is called the the announcers test. You can Google it. The announcers test.
Okay.
Also type in Jerry Lewis, because this is something the actor Jerry Lewis used to practice, but it's called the announcers test. It's actually in Wikipedia.
Okay.
And it's also referred to as 1 hen, 2 ducks.
One hen?
2 ducks.
1 hen, 2
2
ducks.
ducks. Yeah. Just Google that. Yeah.
I sent them both into the chat. There you go. All right. Darren?
Hey guys, so thanks for joining me. I guess I'm joining you as well. We originally planned this to kind of answer some questions and let people know about our virtual event coming up, but we've already sold out for next week, which is crazy, which is a great problem to
Our
have.
second time, and the first one almost sold out as well. So
Yeah, and so we thought about it, we talked about it. We're like, well, let's do it anyway, just for Facebook Live time, Facebook Live time, Facebook Live time. And hey, we were hoping that we helped some people as well. So if you want to check out our event in another 48 hours or so, we'll get some new dates. We've got a powwow with Ed and Mark because we literally sold out last night. We had the biggest sign up day, guys, in the history of Stage Time University yesterday. I don't know what it is, but it was.
Hey, it was,
It was
just
Ed.
pointed
It was
out.
Ed. It was Ed.
I mean, you guys have been working together for a while, and then I joined the team.
Man.
I'm just
Darren,
saying.
it's, top of the hour now, Darren. Top of the hour, Darren.
Wow.
I'm just saying.
So check out virtual presentations workshop if you want to get in it. We'll have an early bird special coming up for our next one, which will be sometime early in June. But we'd love to have you join us. So if you're interested, let us know. Connect with us. You can check out the event page now if you want, but it's called Virtual Presentations Workshop. Mark Brown, take us home.
Hey, friends, we love this time. We might do it again. We'll see you on stage or online. Have a great weekend.
All right. See y'all.
Cheers.